She used to look bored during weekends. Now she smiled at her phone, a late-night ping. I peeked a message from TJ, my son's best friend. Why would he be texting her that late? It wasn't the first time. Lately, her phone was a constant companion. I'd find her scrolling through it at the dinner table, a faint smile playing on her lips, a smile that never quite reached her eyes when she looked at me. I tried asking her about it casually at first. "Everything okay, honey? You seem a bit preoccupied." She'd brush it off, a dismissive wave of her hand. "Just chatting with friends, you know how it is." But when I pushed a little, asking specifically about TJ's late-night texts, she turned defensive. "Honestly, you're being paranoid," she'd say, her tone sharp. "He's just a kid. His mom's going through a tough time. I'm just offering support." Support that apparently required clandestine communications after midnight. It didn't sit right. The quiet shifts in her behavior were like a subtle tremor beneath the surface of our seemingly stable life. He started coming around even when my son wasn't home. It began innocently enough. A quick wave from his car as he drove by, then stopping to borrow a tool or drop off a book. Soon, he was a regular fixture on our porch, a frequent guest in our kitchen. Once, I heard them laughing too hard in the kitchen. It was a bright Saturday afternoon, and my son was supposed to be practicing with his soccer team. I was in my study, trying to focus on some work, when the sound of their shared mirth cut through the quiet. It was a loud, unrestrained laugh, the kind that speaks of pure, unadulterated joy. Then I heard my son's team's coach call his name through the house speakers. My son's game had just started. She never came to the living room to watch. She remained in the kitchen, the laughter fading into hushed tones. Now, real quick before we move to Chapter 2, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more stories just like this. Now let's keep going. I waited for her to shower. The sound of the running water was a hollow echo in the silent house. The house felt too big, too empty, even with her just down the hall. My heart hammered in my chest, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. This was a line I never thought I'd cross, a violation of trust I'd always sworn I'd never commit. But the gnawing suspicion, the unanswered questions, had become a burden too heavy to bear. I crept into our bedroom, the scent of her perfume still hanging in the air. Her phone lay on the nightstand, a beacon of forbidden knowledge. My hands trembled as I picked it up, her passcode a familiar sequence I'd typed 1,000 times for her. The lock screen lit up, and I navigated to her messages. My stomach lurched as I saw the name TJ again, a stark reminder of my lingering unease. The message that greeted me made my blood run cold. It read, "I still taste you in my mouth." The words were simple, yet they painted a vivid, disturbing picture. My mind reeled, trying to process the implication, the sheer audacity of it. How could this be happening? I scrolled down, my fingers clumsy, my breath catching in my throat. Her reply was even more chilling. "You made me feel more alive in 10 minutes than my husband has in 10 years. The words hit me like a physical blow. 10 years. Was that all I was worth? A decade of marriage reduced to a footnote in her secret life. My stomach twisted into a sickening knot. They had time-stamped photos. I braced myself, my eyes scanning the screen with a morbid fascination. There she was, lying on our bed, the place where our most intimate moments had been shared. Her wedding ring was off, resting beside her on the crisp white sheets. He was shirtless behind her, his arm draped possessively around her waist. I kept scrolling because I couldn't stop. A terrible, morbid curiosity had taken hold, a need to witness the full extent of this betrayal. And then I found the video. My breath hitched. She recorded it. A shiver traced its way down my spine. Why would she record it? What was she trying to capture? The implications were almost too much to bear, and I knew, with a chilling certainty, that this was only the beginning of my descent into this nightmare. It was 11:42 p.m. The timestamp glowed ominously on the security feed interface. The camera above the garage, a discreet eye I'd installed months ago for perceived security concerns, pinged. I pulled up the clip, my heart already pounding a heavy rhythm against my ribs. The familiar shape of our side door appeared on screen, and then she opened it. She was wearing a silk robe, the kind that whispered luxury and comfort, but tonight it seemed to conceal nothing. Nothing underneath it. The fabric draped loosely, hinting at the bare skin beneath. He stepped in, TJ, his presence filling the frame with a youthful, unsettling energy. He was not a stranger in my home, but he was a stranger in this context. He moved towards her instantly, wrapping himself around her like he belonged there, like he was an extension of her own body. She smiled, a slow, secret smile that played on her lips, a smile that spoke of a hidden thrill, a clandestine rendezvous. In the security feed, I watched her now kneel in front of him. It was a gesture of submission, of desire, that sent a jolt of pure revulsion through me. Her face tilted up, her eyes meeting his as he leaned over her. Then, the undeniable evidence of their transgression unfolded before my eyes. Her face tilted up as he climaxed all over her chin and lips. The sight was sickening, a grotesque tableau that seared itself into my memory. She didn't wipe it off. She just stared at the camera, her expression unreadable, almost defiant. A cold dread washed over me. Did she know? Was this deliberate? Was she aware that every second, every intimate, violating act was being recorded and saved? The thought that she might have been performing for the camera, for an unseen audience, perhaps even for me, was a bitter pill to swallow. I hit pause there, the frozen image a testament to my shattered reality. The garage was no longer a safe space. It was a theater of my own destruction. She acted like nothing happened the next morning. Moved through the house with her usual grace, her movements familiar, almost comforting, yet now laced with a profound new meaning. Made pancakes, the aroma filling the kitchen, a scent that used to signify lazy weekend mornings, but now felt like a cruel mockery. She hugged our son, her embrace tight, as if trying to anchor herself, or perhaps trying to shield him from the storm brewing beneath the surface. I sat there watching her fingers stir eggs, the metal of the whisk scraping softly against the ceramic of the bowl. The same fingers that, just hours ago, had presumably clawed into his back, had traced the contours of a teenage boy's skin. Every mundane action she took was now amplified, imbued with a disturbing significance. The casual way she poured syrup, the gentle hum of her lips as she worked, it all felt like a meticulously crafted performance. I knew I had to gather more proof, more pain. Not for anyone else, not for the world to see, but for myself. I needed to understand the depth of this deception, to compile a dossier of her transgressions that would leave no room for denial, no space for doubt. I let her think she was safe, that her secrets remained buried. I smiled when she spoke, nodded when she asked a mundane question about the day's plans. I played the part of the oblivious husband, the unsuspecting partner. But I already bought the second camera the week before. It had arrived in a discreet package, tucked away in the back of my closet. I had a premonition, a deep-seated unease that had prompted the purchase. I hadn't needed it yet, had hesitated to deploy it, but now, seeing her so casually enact this charade, I knew I had to. What's on it made everything worse. The foresight that had once seemed like paranoia now felt like a curse, each new piece of evidence a nail in the coffin of my marriage. They met behind the garage, a familiar spot hidden from the casual view of the neighbors, a place that had once symbolized quiet intimacy, now a stage for a different kind of intimacy. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows, dappling the ground with a fleeting light that did little to soften the harsh reality of what I was witnessing. She reached out, her hand finding the back of his head, pulling him closer, her lips meeting his with a desperate hunger. She kissed him like she needed him to breathe, like every molecule of air in her lungs was dependent on his touch. It was raw, untamed, a stark contrast to the polite pecks she'd offered me over the years. Her hair, usually tied back in a neat bun, was let down, falling around her shoulders, a cascade of dark silk. She looked younger somehow, a desperate echo of the woman I'd first fallen in love with, but twisted, corrupted. He picked her up, his youthful strength a stark contrast to her desperation. He pinned her against the rough wood of the shed wall, a scene reminiscent of a teenage fantasy, all fumbling hands and breathless urgency. The sound of their frantic breathing filled the small, secluded space. Her wedding ring scraped the siding with each frantic movement, a metallic protest against the transgression. I could almost feel the roughness of the wood against her skin. And before he left, he whispered something. I strained to hear, my ears straining against the silence of my own choked breathing. What could he possibly say to her that would elicit such a reaction? She laughed like a girl, a light, giddy sound that was utterly out of place, a discordant note in this symphony of deception. I replayed that whisper, that laugh, that moment of shared intimacy 6 times. What did he say? The question echoed in the hollow space where my trust used to be. I came home early. The silence of the house greeted me, a usual occurrence that now felt heavy, pregnant with unspoken secrets. The air was different, heavier, tangy, sweaty. A musky scent I've never known before, distinct and undeniably intimate, hung in the air. It was the smell of borrowed time, of stolen moments, of a betrayal so profound it had permeated the very atmosphere of our home. My son told me TJ left an hour before I got there. His words were casual, almost dismissive, but they landed like a ton of bricks. He'd gone, leaving behind a trail of evidence that was impossible to ignore. She had locked herself in the bathroom, the sanctuary of her privacy, now a fortress of guilt. I stood in the doorway, the cool tile a stark contrast to the burning in my veins. On the bed, the sheets were a map of their encounter. Sweat stains, dark and sprawling, marked the landscape of their passion. Pillows were dented, bearing the imprint of heads pressed together in frantic embraces. And under the bed, tucked away, almost hidden, was a single condom wrapper. A stark reminder of the physical act that had sealed my fate. I sat down on the edge of the mattress, the springs groaning beneath my weight. The mattress still warm. It was a physical warmth, a lingering heat from their bodies, a tangible echo of their shared intimacy. I found her bra inside his gym bag in the hallway. It was a small, intimate item, out of place, a forgotten piece of the puzzle that spoke volumes about the closeness of their relationship. It was the final, damning piece of evidence. Our son used to have dinner with us every night. It was a ritual, a cornerstone of our family life, a time for connection, for sharing the day's events. He'd sit between us, his youthful enthusiasm a constant source of joy. But suddenly, he picked up late practices and extra gym time. His evenings were suddenly consumed by athletic pursuits, his presence at our dinner table a rarity. I asked him why. I tried to keep my voice neutral, my tone conversational, but a knot of anxiety tightened in my chest. Was he avoiding us? Was he sensing the tension, the unspoken discord that permeated our home? He just said, "I don't like the vibe at home." His young voice was laced with a weariness that no teenager should possess. The vibe. It was a vague term, but I understood. He felt it too. The shift in his mother, the strange energy that now clung to her. He was picking up on the subtle changes, the undercurrent of deceit. I wanted to tell him, to explain why the vibe had soured, why his mother's attention was no longer solely focused on him, on us. But would it break him more to know his mom loved his best friend more than her own family? The thought of shattering his innocence was a heavy burden. His trust in his mother was absolute, a pure and untainted faith. To expose her actions, to reveal the depth of her betrayal, would be to destroy that faith, to tarnish his idealized image of her. Or was it worse he might already know? That he had witnessed something, suspected something, and carried that burden in silence, his young heart burdened by adult secrets. The possibility was almost more painful than the act of betrayal itself. Coach Daniels called me. The sound of his voice on the phone, professional and concerned, initially brought a sense of relief. Perhaps this was about TJ's performance, a chance to discuss his recent struggles without delving into personal matters. He said TJ was distracted, missing weight goals, not showing up consistently, all valid concerns for any coach. Then he dropped it, a sentence that landed like a bomb, shattering the fragile peace I'd managed to maintain. Also didn't expect something like this with a parent. My blood turned to ice. The casual cruelty of that phrase, the implication of something far more sinister than a teenage boy's athletic slump. They knew, someone saw something. But how could they know? Did TJ confess? Did someone witness the garage incident? Unless she got careless somewhere public, the thought sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. Had she been so consumed by her obsession that she'd exposed herself, her affair, to the scrutiny of others? I didn't ask questions. I couldn't. The fear of what I might hear, of what confirmation I might receive, was paralyzing. I just told him I'd handle it. My voice was a tightrope walk between control and the impending unraveling of my world. I hung up the phone, my hands shaking. The footage, the indisputable proof. I needed to compile it, to present it in a way that would leave no doubt, no room for her manipulations. I found TJ's father's number from the school directory. Then I printed the footage. Not just the garage clip, but everything. The late-night texts, the photos, the video. I was no longer acting on impulse. I was moving with a cold, calculated precision. I didn't scream. There was no cathartic explosion of rage, no dramatic confrontation filled with accusatory shouts. That felt unseemly, too theatrical for something so fundamentally broken. I walked into the living room where she was sitting, her gaze fixed on some point in the middle distance, a familiar, slightly vacant look in her eyes. I held out the manila envelope, its contents a stark contrast to the pastel decor of our home. I didn't even ask if she wanted to see. I just showed her the screenshots, the printed images pulled directly from those damning video files. Her face didn't shift, not even a blink. It was as if the images were of strangers, of a fictional story unfolding on a screen, not of her intimate moments with my son's best friend. She had perfected the art of emotional detachment. Then she spoke, her voice a low murmur, barely audible. I've been feeling dead inside for years. The words hung in the air between us, a confession and a justification rolled into one. I looked at her, searching for any sign of remorse, any flicker of guilt that might offer a sliver of hope for understanding. I asked if it made her feel proud, this clandestine escapade with a teenager. A wave of shame, or perhaps just irritation at being caught, flickered across her face. Her voice cracked only when she said, "He made me feel wanted. Do you even see me anymore?" The question was more of an accusation, a veiled indictment of my own perceived failings as a husband. In that moment, I knew she felt no guilt. Guilt implies a recognition of wrongdoing, a pang of conscience. She felt shame, yes, but not the deep, soul-wrenching regret that I had expected. Shame for being caught, not for the act itself. I walked out before I said what was really on my mind, before I let the venom of my own pain spill out and taint the sterile silence. I left it on her desk, a simple manila envelope, innocuous from the outside, but containing a payload of devastating truth. Inside were printed screenshots, the visual evidence of her betrayal, stark and undeniable. There was also a summary of her account access withdrawals, a testament to the financial strings I'd begun to pull, quiet maneuvers designed to sever her independence. And then something else, something she never saw coming, a final, decisive blow. I watched her from the staircase cam, a voyeur in my own home, observing the unraveling of the life we had built. She picked it up, her movements tentative, as if unsure of what lay within. She flipped through the pages, her eyes scanning the damning images and financial data, and then she paused. Her hands started shaking, a tremor that visibly shook the papers. The carefully constructed facade began to crumble. She ran to her phone, her fingers fumbling as she tried to unlock it. She needed to warn him to coordinate their next move, to salvage what little they could. But she didn't know I already cloned hers. A digital ghost, a replica of her phone's contents, nestled securely on my own device. The next message flashed across her screen, a frantic plea to her accomplice. "He knows everything. What do we do?" I saw her relief when his reply finally came, a stark contrast to her panic. But she never told him about the last page. Tucked away at the very end of the envelope was a single, unsigned letter. A letter detailing, in cold, hard legal terms, the initial steps of our divorce proceedings, the division of assets, the implications for both her and TJ's future. It was a preview of the reckoning to come, a silent promise of the consequences that awaited them both. I created a fake account, a digital mask, a phantom identity designed to move through the shadows, unseen and unheard. My purpose was deliberate, my aim precise. I dropped images from the camera into the football parent group text. They were pixelated just enough to protect identities, or so I hoped, but obvious enough that she knew who she was. A digital breadcrumb trail leading directly back to her doorstep. The messages exploded. The quiet realm of organized youth sports was thrown into chaos. Moms messaged each other in rapid succession, a torrent of whispers and shocked exclamations. Dads texted me privately, their messages a mix of outrage and curiosity. I stayed quiet, a silent observer of the pandemonium I'd unleashed. I didn't need to say a word, the evidence spoke for itself. But someone, emboldened by curiosity or perhaps a sense of public service, screenshotted the exchanges and sent it to the boys' parents. The digital wildfire spread, consuming caution and discretion. His father, a man I'd only ever known through polite nods at game days, called my house line directly. The phone rang, a shrill interruption to the tense silence in our home. I didn't pick up. I let it ring, a silent refusal to engage with the inevitable fallout. I just watched the voicemails pile up, each one a testament to the escalating crisis. Anger, confusion, demands for explanation. It had just begun. The carefully constructed facade of our neighborhood, the veneer of respectable family life, was starting to crack, revealing the rot beneath. And I was the one holding the hammer, ready to shatter it all. TJ was stripped from captaincy 2 days later. The official announcement was vague, citing a breach of team conduct, but everyone knew the real reason. Rumors flooded school hallways, a whisper campaign that spread like wildfire, fueled by the leaked images and the hushed conversations of concerned parents. Girls laughed behind lockers, their whispers laced with a mixture of scandal and salacious delight. Guys stopped sitting with him at lunch, their camaraderie replaced by a wary distance. I heard about it from my son, who, bless his innocent heart, thought TJ got caught with weed. He relayed the story with wide eyes, a hint of concern for his friend, but a complete lack of understanding of the true cause. I let him believe that. The deception was multi-layered, a complex tapestry woven with lies and half-truths. Meanwhile, she tried to hold me at night, her arms wrapping around me in a desperate, familiar embrace. I didn't pull away. Not yet. I let her cling to me, to the illusion of our past. I whispered, "I forgive you." The words felt like ash in my mouth, a bitter lie that masked the depth of my contempt. She smiled, a fragile, hopeful smile that never reached her eyes. That was the last night she'd smile in this house. The illusion was about to shatter, and with it, any pretense of reconciliation. It came in a thin envelope, slipped through the mail slot like a death sentence. Rejected. The word itself felt like a verdict, a final judgment on TJ's future. No explanation, just a curt denial. He punched a hole in his bedroom wall, the sound of the impact echoing through the house, a physical manifestation of his despair. My wife rushed to text him, her fingers flying across the screen, a desperate attempt to connect, to comfort. He didn't reply this time. The silence was deafening, a void where his easygoing replies used to be. I read her screen while she showered, her desperate pleas for him to talk laid bare for my perusal. She begged him to talk, to let her help, to let her be there for him. His reply finally came a day later, a stark, devastating message that confirmed my worst fears. My life, over. Don't message again. She spiraled that night. The carefully constructed dam of her composure finally broke. She smashed dishes, the shards scattering across the floor like broken dreams. She sat on the stairs until 4 a.m., a solitary figure bathed in the dim moonlight, her grief a tangible presence in the room. But I still hadn't done the final thing, the ultimate act of reprisal, the one that would ensure the consequences were as lasting as her betrayal. Bank accounts frozen, credit cards canceled, her name removed from house paperwork. I had made it all legal, all clean, each step meticulously planned and executed with the precision of a surgeon. The system I'd been building, the network of consequences, was now in full effect. She came back from a walk, her cheeks flushed from the crisp autumn air, and found a for sale sign planted firmly in our front lawn. She screamed, a high, piercing sound that ripped through the quiet afternoon. I didn't flinch. I stood by the window, watching her reaction, my gaze steady, my resolve unwavering. I told her, my voice calm and detached, that she'd be living with her sister by next week. The words hung in the air, a death knell for her comfortable existence. She asked, her voice trembling, "But how will I?" And I walked away. I didn't offer explanations, no justifications for the storm I had orchestrated, no more tears. Just consequences. Life had a way of delivering its own justice, and I had simply expedited the process. Then came the whisper I never expected from my son at dinner that night. His voice was barely audible, a mere breath of sound that seemed to carry the weight of years of unspoken pain. "I saw them weeks ago, Dad," he said quietly. The words were delivered with a chilling calmness, a stark contrast to the turmoil that had consumed our home. I froze, my fork clinking against the plate, the sound unnaturally loud in the sudden silence. My son wouldn't look at either of us, his gaze fixed somewhere on the tablecloth, his young shoulders hunched as if carrying an unbearable burden. "I wasn't dumb," he continued, his voice raw with a pain that seemed far too profound for his age. "I just hoped it would stop." He had known. He had witnessed the betrayal, the daily erosion of our family, and he had kept it all to himself. The weight of that secret, the silent witness to his mother's transgressions, had clearly taken its toll. I asked, my voice trembling, "Why didn't you tell me?" The question was a plea for understanding, a desperate grasp for clarity in the wreckage of our lives. He finally looked up, his eyes filled with a profound sadness that mirrored my own. "Because I knew you tear it all down," he said, his voice cracking, "and I didn't want to lose both of you." The raw honesty of his confession was a gut punch, landing harder than any of my calculated maneuvers. That was when I realized the true devastation of the situation, the irreparable damage I already had. I had lost them both, not just my wife, but the innocence and trust of my son, the very foundation upon which our family was built. His words, intended to explain his silence, had instead revealed the devastating scope of my victory. A victory that felt hollow, empty, and profoundly, irrevocably alone. The house stood silent, a monument to what once was. Empty rooms echoed with the ghost of laughter, of arguments, of a life lived fully. The for sale sign in the yard was a stark reminder of my final act, the ultimate severance. She was gone, living with her sister, a financial and social pariah. The boy, TJ, his future in tatters, was a constant specter in my thoughts, a reminder of the collateral damage wrought by infidelity. My son and I navigated the new reality. Dinners were quiet, punctuated by forced conversation. He carried the weight of his knowledge, the silent burden of his mother's shame, and the fractured trust with her. I carried the weight of my actions, the cold satisfaction of revenge mixed with a gnawing sense of loss. The betrayal had been a wildfire, consuming everything in its path, leaving behind only ashes. I had wanted consequences that lasted forever, and in a way I had achieved that. The financial ruin, the social ostracism, the broken spirits, these were not fleeting moments. They were scars that would likely never fully fade. But as I looked at my son, his young face etched with a maturity born of hardship, I wondered about the true cost of my campaign. Was eternal consequence worth the destruction of the bonds that mattered most? The answer now felt like a cruel, hollow echo. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new story from us. We'll see you in the next one.